want to take a few moments with you to talk to you about one of the most practical aspects of biblical counseling that's often overlooked as a aspect of counseling that you may not have considered, and that is biblical prophecy. And it's one of those things to where you wouldn't really often pair prophecy with practical life. But there is a practical aspect of prophecy that we deal with in counseling on a regular basis. And so I want to take a few moments to talk about that because prophecy, like I love prophecy. I grew up in a culture where we talked about it a lot. I read the Left Behind series. I went to Bible prophecy conferences where we talked about, when is Gog and Magog, and when is the rapture, when is what is the mark of the beast? What could that be? How does that flesh out? Where does Israel fit into all of that? Where's the United States fit into all of that? Like we love to speculate about that and talk about it and argue about it. And when is all this going to happen? And you look through the book of Revelation and you study that, and you look through the book of Daniel and Ezekiel, and there are prophecies in all throughout Scripture that haven't happened yet, and so we like to talk about them. What's this going to be? We like to argue about it too, and that's one of the things I enjoy and have enjoyed a lot is to talk through aspects of prophecy in a way that I don't think that's how God designed it to be. God didn't design prophecy just so that we could argue about it. He had a real purpose and a plan in that. And I want to take a few moments to talk about the practical aspect about it, because God has been prophesying since the book of Genesis, before even the fall. When he told Adam in the garden, if you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die. That's a prophecy. It didn't take long for that prophecy to be twisted by the enemy. What did Satan say to Eve? Did God really say? Let's have a conversation about that. Let's debate that. God didn't say that. And really what's really going to happen is that when you eat of that tree, your eyes are going to be open. You're going to be like God. God's holding out on you. And he twisted prophecy to his own purposes and his own ends so that we would sin. There's no difference today. Is that Satan understands the practical aspect of prophecy. He uses it for his own purposes. And so we need to be on guard for that, to know that God has a real purpose and a point for prophecy, and that was for Adam and Eve, for their purity, for their holiness, for their knowledge of him, for their experience of him, so that friendship and that relaxing in his character. And it's true for us today. So there's three aspects of that I just talked about that I want to flesh out. And first is understanding and having that intimate relationship with God. If you look through the Old Testament, even through prophecy, he's making these promises to Israel, like, I will be your God, you will be my people. Here's what happens if you obey my word. Here's what happens if you disobey my word. This is what will happen. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a suffering servant, a Messiah who's going to come and he's going to deal with your sin. He's going to suffer and die. And he has a point in that. And all of those prophecies is for Israel to know him and experience him. And Jesus comes and he comes and he tells his disciples, John chapter 15, here's what I'm up to. And I'm calling you my friends because I'm telling you everything I'm going to do. And he reveals his suffering. He reveals what he's going to do. And that is meant to be practically a revelation. The book of Revelation is the revelation of Jesus Christ, so that we can have intimacy with him, that we can know him and experience him, which is what life is all about, is that intimate friendship that God has given us with him. And so if your prophecy is about just debate and about conjecture and just like I'm right and everybody else is wrong, you've missed it. Prophecy is about Christ and about knowing him and experiencing him. And it always has been from the very beginning. It's about God. Secondly, prophecy is about comfort. He's revealed to us about who he is and what he's going to do. And so in this life, as it relates to biblical counseling, we have people who come to us who've lost loved ones, who are going through hardships and trials and struggles. It's like, will this ever end? I'm groaning. And there's a future hope And there's a comfort. 1 Thessalonians 4 talks about that when we see him, we will be like him, and that we will meet him in the air, and in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, it's just going to instantly, we're going to be transformed. And what a joy that will be. That in your sorrows and in your losses and in your struggles, they have an expiration date that is not permanent. The sorrows that we experience will be caught up with him in the air, and we will experience the fullness of his presence and his joy. And what comfort that gives, and what hope that gives. And that's a real thing as we go through this life, that we have a future joy and a future hope. But thirdly, that hope that we have, 1 John chapter 3 says that everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself, even as he is pure. What is that? Is because when we see him, we will be like him. We will see him as he is. This future prophecy of his return brings about purity, which is intensely practical. We deal with this all the time as people are struggling with sin in pornography and in lust and in looking to other things for their future and for their joy and comfort, of alcohol and addiction and gambling. And like, I don't need to go after all of these other things that are trying to rob me and steal my joy and my future hope. That Satan says that's not what's going to happen. You don't have this hope. You need to find your joy now in these temporary things. And the reality is that prophecy is given to us so that we can have purity and holiness, that I'm set apart for another kingdom, another reality that's coming that hasn't happened yet. So I can have comfort and purity and joy and this future hope. And so if the enemy has twisted your thinking that to say like, no, prophecy, it just is boring, it has nothing to do with your life, and two, like that you just, it's something for an intellectual debate and discussion. Did God really say? No. It's intently practical, and it's biblical. Biblical counseling is that we can have this relational bond and intimacy, knowing that he's revealed who he is and what he's about. And that produces comfort and hope and joy. And it produces, thirdly, purity and holiness. Because we can know with confidence who he is, what he's about, what he's going to do, that he's revealed himself in the pages of Scripture of what he's going to do. And that produces something intensely practical. And so I hope and pray that your prophecy and your love of prophecy is not for its own sake. It's not for Satan's purposes. It's for God's, of knowing him, experiencing him, and enjoying him and being comforted by him. Thanks much.